Mr. Hatch, what's going on, buddy?
How you doing?
Good.
Good. We're gonna head right down in there.
Right down in there?
Yeah, down there over that little bridge.
All right, you got it, man. I'll back up and I'll follow you in.
Cool, sounds good.
Well, here we are, kids. Jeff Hatch's Raven Wilderness School in Williamsburg, Massachusetts. It was a beautiful drive through the Berkshires coming out of the capital region of New York. Upon arriving, he had a freaking awesome meal waiting for me. We'll call this the Irish breakfast. Don't worry, we didn't break out the adult beverages until later. Safety first. After devouring our delicious meal, we got to work processing firewood. Jeff and his student TJ already had a pretty good start going. All we had to do was cut up a little bit more and bring it back to the camp. All this stuff is hard work, but it's well worth it once you see the final result of your efforts. Here you can see TJ felling a tree with his axe and getting his groove on with the saw. It looks warm and cozy, doesn't it? It's hard to believe that it got down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit this night. Jeff had to bounce due to date night obligations with his wife. He had already introduced me to Jim and TJ, two of his students, and he said goodbye confidently, knowing that we had it under control for the night. World Meet Jim, also known as Jims.outdoors with a Z on Instagram. This dude was a cool cat. He had a really sweet, mostly self-made kit, traditional woodsman style. Awesome stuff. And this is TJ Loughlane on Instagram. Yeah, that was supposed to be a Scottish accent. It sucked, I know, don't worry about it. But anyway, this dude was an awesome dude. Real quiet, and you could tell he was soaking up all the information he could possibly get. Also got to give him props for a lot of the footage in this video and some of the pictures as well. Real cool dude. For those of you not of legal drinking age, plug your eyes and close your ears for a minute. Yeah, this is where we broke out the adult beverages. Had awesome conversations with these guys throughout the night. Really good content, really good stuff. I'll give you a couple clips here in a second. This doesn't even cover the breadth of what we talked about. But we all know campfire stories. They can go on and on and on and on forever.
Just
good times.
Saw our canoe and they're like, oh, I wonder what's going on here. And we just have her standing on the edge and they're like, hey. And they're like, oh my God, there's people here. They have a full camp, and we didn't even see it.
Didn't even know that. That's where I'm at. I mean, it all comes up with the personal preference. You got like purely traditionalist guys. You got the tactical guys, and you got the in between. You got even the modern guys. You know, that are carrying the Ospreys and the Gregory backpacks and stuff. And they got their setups with their jet boils and the MSRs and this stuff. And you know, it's awesome. It all works. You know what I mean? It all comes down to like
all
personal
depends on preference.
Yeah.
Of course, I got to throw in a fiery promotional gear pick. This is the Mora Garberg and Holtzbruck Almicki hatchet, both of which I sell in my store and online at store.happyjackotter.com. Hint, hint. Here I am giving TJ a hand getting his hemlock bough bed in order. Now I'm getting my spot situated, tying up a ridge line for the grabber all-weather blanket. I'd have to say, once completed, I had a cozy freaking spot. 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and I was warm as a bug snug in a rug. After we all crashed, this was TJ's point of view as he was laying in his hemlock bough bed. Around 4 a.m., the fire had all but burned out. TJ and I got up, restoked the flames, only took a few minutes, and then we climbed back into our sleep setups. I woke up a few hours later to the sound of Jeff returning back to camp. Once we all got up, we went down to the river, which was very close by, collected some water and started boiling it for coffee and to wash up. Jeff and the guys asked me if I wanted to go see Frank Grinrod from Earthwork Programs put on a tracking class at a local conservation area. Of course, I said yes. So we packed up our gear and headed out. Once we got there and Frank started talking, I knew this dude knew what was up.
So talk about perfect timing. Yes. Yeah. Snow coming in and like covering up all of the kind of fresh tracks that were here earlier. And then so stopped, 8 o'clock last night, somewhere around there. And then the animals just got to like be the artist, right? And like, on this fresh thing.
Quite a few people showed up for the class. After the introductions, we headed out and headed to our first stop, which was to be the Beaver Lodge. Frank was on point with an awesome conversation about how hard the conservation group had worked to get the beavers to stay in the pond. Here's a shot of the group coming around the back side of the Beaver Lodge, talking about the subtle nuances of the busy beavers. Jeff and I were listening intently to what Frank had to say. This guy really knows his stuff. When walking around in the wilderness, you never know what little mysteries you'll come
Looks like
across.
someone's laying down. Looks like a Sasquatch bedding area.
After the Beaver Lodge, we moved on to look for more fresh tracks in the snow. This is a red fox track. And here's the group really getting in there and checking them out. And of course we came across some white-tailed deer tracks. After venturing off trail for a ways, we found some really cool porcupine tracks. At this point it was getting pretty late in the day. The whole point of this trip was actually to get an interview with Jeff Hatch at Raven Wilderness School. We said our goodbyes to the group and invited Frank along to join us for the interview when he finished up. Then we headed back to Wilderness Village. Of course, by the time we returned to the village, the fire had burned out. That was okay by us. We got to get some cool footage of starting a fire. So Jeff and I went and collected some kindling and got the job done. Jeff has his Frost River haversack filled with a gargantuan amount of natural tinders. I mean, you name it, and it was in this bag. So it was really, really easy getting this fire going with the ferrocerium rod and a knife. Alright, I'm going to shut up now so you can enjoy the fire for a few minutes with us.
Feel the warmth.
Right on cue, Frank showed up for the interview. After throwing some larger pieces of wood on the fire, we got settled in, nestled down next to the fire, and had an awesome little chat.
How's it going, guys? This is Devin from Wilderness Water and Woods Trading, and we kind of wanted to do something a little different. Everybody's got their product review videos, everybody's got their how-to videos, and I was kind of thinking of doing maybe a little series going around the Northeast and meeting up with bushcrafters in the area and kind of getting their take on things. Just because, you know, everybody does something a little bit different, and you might learn something from somebody that you couldn't grasp or learn from somebody else. So today, I'm out here with Jeff Hatch and Frank Grindrod at Raven Wilderness School. And I just want to sit down and talk with them a little bit. Sitting here by the fire, nice and cozy. Hopefully we'll have a good chat. So, Frank Grindrod, how you doing?
Yeah, great. It's great to be a part of this. You know, I just love being out here, spending time with Jeff out here, and just what this offers, you know, this wilderness here. You know, it's like the home away from home, so it's really nice to actually be doing the filming out here.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you know,
Great job,
somewhere,
Jeff, with this wilderness village, by the way.
Thanks. It's
it
coming along.
is absolutely beautiful.
It's
You got
been
a
not
beautiful
just me,
spot
though.
here.
I did this, but Jim did this, and Frank was working on this, and we're going to do another one over here. So we'll have 4 shelters kind of encircling the fire right here, and everyone's been helping out.
Yeah.
That's why we call it the village, because everyone's helping out.
And that's really what the bushcraft community is. It
Yeah,
is
sure.
a community. You know, everybody's got their special skill, you know, and everybody's learning from each other. And when you're in a group of people, you know, you have a better chance of surviving. I mean, when you're by yourself, you're all alone, certain things, you know, take over your mind. But when you're with a group of people, you know, you just get that community aspect. And that's really what I love about bushcraft as a whole. Is, you know, everybody's always so welcoming, and it's just great people all around. Everybody's like really down to earth, and you know, it's just a really awesome thing. So, Frank, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So I run a school called Earthwork Programs, and we have been around for 17 years.
17 years, really?
17 years doing this work. You know, it started out in Western Mass, and then we've had the opportunity to do stuff in the Pacific Northwest and Alaska.
Wow, no kidding.
The Everglades. Yeah, so we've been traveling around, and you know, I've had an opportunity. I mean, a lot of bushcrafters know Morris Kahansky. I've had an opportunity to train with him, and it's really, you know, I came from the primitive skills aspect of it. You know, making everything with rocks and bone and all that. And then the bushcraft was something that kind of was birthed later on, as far as media-wise. So then the culture became, you know, bushcraft and primitive skills, and so it's this amazing dovetail that happens. It's almost like you're bilingual.
Right. Yeah, because you do have you have your primitive skill guys, you have your bushcrafters, you have your modern bushcrafters, you got your survivalists, and then you got your
like
traditional guys,
woodsmen.
absolutely traditional woodsmen.
Yep.
And you know, it's nice to see that everything's kind of coming together now. Like everybody's really getting interested into all aspects, of it, which is a really cool thing.
Which I think is important too, to take different skills from different people. Learning from the modern survival guy and the military survival guy and the primitive skill guy, and taking skills from all those guys and making those yours and what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can, like you were saying earlier, you can learn something from everybody. It's good to visit other people and learn those schools and talk with people. That's what's great about Instagram, is you get to meet so many different people from around the world. And you learn from each person, you know, how they do their thing, you know, and you take what you think is going to work for you, and you practice that, and before you know it, you have a whole bunch of skills that work great for you, and you know, it's a good thing. So it's a great community, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, I actually had the opportunity to go out with Jeff and Frank earlier. Frank was putting on a program at a local conservation area, and he was putting on a tracking class, and it was pretty awesome. We got some footage of that, and hopefully I'll be able to share a little bit of that with you. We won't go into depth because we really kind of want you to come out here and meet Frank for yourself, because he is a really extremely knowledgeable person. I could just tell that immediately as soon as I met him. He's a very good speaker, and he knows his stuff. So definitely check out Frank Grindrod at Earthworks, and it was a pleasure meeting you. Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much. And
Thank you.
You know, one of the things I just wanted to mention is that, you know, the whole language that we have as bushcrafters and primitive skills folks and everything, it's really helped to kind of like be the glue to help us all learn together. And so, like you were saying, as far as the idea of a village, what I feel is like I like with all these shows that are out there, like people are like, they're seeing these shows and they're like getting you know, that hit of like, oh yeah, I want that, you know, that self-reliance, that being able to like, you know, do these things, and then they're finding themselves like drawn to like coming here and having an experience, but then it becomes so much more than that. It becomes way more than like, oh, I want to start to learn how to make a fire by rubbing sticks together. You know, it like becomes something where it's like, wow, I actually unplug from my phone, or I do this, and then all of a sudden they get to actually settle in, and they're like, wow, this is real.
It's real.
Like so many other things in my life are like, you know, they're like this illusion that I'm doing, right?
It becomes a complacency where people get stuck in their everyday life, and they don't really have to fight to survive. Yes, you have to work to survive. You have to go to work every day. You got to do what you got to do to put food on the table. But when it boils down to it, you're not out here building life for yourself and living off the land and becoming incorporated and becoming one with the land. And it really, you know, it boils down to the basic human relationships of, you know, people don't appreciate the work that it takes to put into building something like this. And you're not, you know, once you become complacent, it's like everything, you take everything for granted.
And you know, that's one thing that people can do by getting into bushcraft, is being able to appreciate the primordial aspect of life, and it makes you appreciate life better as a whole.
Practice these skills that people have done for thousands of years. They've made fire exactly the same way, you know, with a bow drill, a hand drill. It's an amazing thing for someone to come out and learn something like that, and then do it themselves, you know.
And there is where the camera died. The intentions were to get an interview with Jeff Hatch, but I am absolutely thankful for meeting Frank Grindrod, TJ, and Jim, and getting some awesome conversation with them. It was great meeting you guys. This video will be continued at a later time. I have invited Jeff out to the Adirondacks to go on an adventure with me, so hopefully we'll have a video for that soon. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, please subscribe to the channel, and happy adventures.